In today's video, we're going to take a look at how to laser engrave powdered mugs using the rotary attachment in Ruby. This will be the second video that I'm doing that shows us how to use the rotary attachment in Ruby. The first video was using a Pilsner glass and locating logos, a logo or logos on that glass. The nice thing about glass engraving, such as a Pilsner glass or a wine glass or a highball, is that there's really no obstructions in the glass. There's no logos, there's no handles, pour lines or anything like that. It's a fairly clean product, and it's very easy to do. You saw that doing one logo, two logos was quite simple with Ruby and the rotary attachment. Even doing the four logos was easy, as once we understand how the circumference works on the glass and how we can locate that. When we look at powdered mugs, it's a little bit different. And the ones we normally think about are Yetis, which again I'll be doing samples on the Yeti. So there's a Yeti here, there's a Yeti here, and again you've got logos here that we have to sort of try to locate. We also have a handle, and again we've got to think about that too. And again we've got a Stanley mug if we wanted to use those. So Stanley mugs are quite popular, very good quality. And we've got all the other ones that you can buy, the no-name powdered mugs. And all of them typically laser the same way for the most part. But again, the problem that we have with some of the mugs like this is they do have logos, they do have handles, they have obstructions that we have to think about when we're actually going to laser engrave these products. And the biggest thing is that this stuff is expensive, man. My gosh, it cost me $40 for this. This is crazy. But it is what it is. They're very popular right now. So I think that we really need to take the time to take a look at it. And I think once we sort of learn how to do the Yeti mug, if we get into some other glasses or things that have larger handles, we'll talk about that in a separate video. But again, it'll probably make it pretty easy to do that one too. But again, let's get going. Let's take a look at this. I think you're going to find it's going to be pretty easy to do most of what we want to do today. It's just really a matter of just sort of thinking about a couple of steps that we have to sort of think about before we go ahead and do the logos on these mugs themselves, because we don't want to make boo-boos. I don't want you to make a mistake. I want it to be easy. So Ruby is very good at doing that, as long as we understand the reaction of the rotary attachment, Ruby, and the mug. So let's get on with it. Let's take a look at it. And if you have any questions, feel free to ask. So if you take a look at the screen, you can actually see that I've got everything set up here. I've got the way the rotary attachment is loaded into the machine. I've saved that as red so that the operator can see which way the rotary is typically going to be set up for this mug. You can see I've got a picture of the mug here. You can see the word Yeti is here, so again they know. You can see by the top lid here that hopefully this is a visual cue for them to know which mug they're using. And you can see that I've got the mug set up along the line here. Now, in the actual machine itself, this red line, as I've said, is the red dot pointer. Okay, and if you look at the image on the bottom right here, you'll see that the red dot pointer is right between the E and the T of the word Yeti. And the thing to remember is that that is the way it needs to go in the rotary attachment to always be in the right position based on the way the template is set up. And this is a little bit different than job control. This is actually a little bit easier in Ruby than it is in job control to set this up, because this red dot pointer is going to be right in the middle of the E and the T, and it's really like we did with the Pilsner glass. It's going to be really straightforward and easy to use. I don't have a handle on this, so I don't have to take that into concern.
all I really need to do is get this in the right location. And we know the middle of the logo is right where the red dot pointer is, which is in line with the E and the T of the actual mug itself. And we typically want our logo to be in the middle of the E and of the word Yeti. So everything we're working on here perfectly. So if I'm doing a one logo job, then the only thing I really need to know is it going to be on the silver Yeti writing or is it going to be on the black Yeti writing? That's really the only two things that I really need to know for this job here. So all I really need to do is I can just save this job and I could call it a one logo job, and then I can actually save it as a template. And let's do that. Let's call it 1 ounce and let's just say one logo. And we'll save the job. And I'm ready to go. You notice here that I've got the Yeti Mug setting already done up. I'm running at 100 power, 90 speed. This is an 80 watt system that I'm testing on. So pretty straightforward. And I made that a favorite because maybe I'm doing a lot of Yeti mugs and I like that to come up pretty easy. That's really all I really need to do other than just getting this in the right location. And again, that can be done if I go to the middle with my anchor point. You can see here that the Y is 0, 0 because it's on the middle of the red line. And then this value right here is going to relate to the actual or the middle of our image. And then all I need to do is bring this out to the middle. And we can see that on the screen. We can see the actual movement now to our position. And that's really the middle, and that's really the middle of where I want the logo to be for this logo here. We can say that this logo is going to be at 18 point. Bring this over and snap this right here. So it's now in the middle, and you notice that it's at 20.76. We may want to make that, say, 7.5 just to make it a little bit easier to remember. And then we can actually save the job. So now I've got everything set perfectly in the middle, and then all I really need to do now is to save that job. Or if I want, I could move this out of the way. I could put a marker right here, which is F8. I can zoom in. And let's just move the head out of the way a little bit here. And then let's get this logo at 775. So now we've got the marker at the actual proper position here. Again, if you want, you can move that, or I could, again, if I move this out of the way, I can always come back and then just type in. That matches up perfectly with my image. And now I have a marker for the job, and then I can save that. I really don't need this logo here. You may want to have the logo here for having just a visual cue as to the way the logo, is sort of portrayed on the actual image, it's on the actual object. But normally I'm just going to save this. And now I've got my marker here, which is really all I need. So I can bring this down, I can bring this logo, and then I can just snap it right to that marker right there, and I'm ready to go. So now all I need to do is take that job, I've got all my settings ready to go, and then I can push it to the laser machine. And you can see now that it is a rotary attachment because I've got these shaded areas here. I've got my power and speed, and I've got my ready to run ready to go here, and then I can just run the job, and then I got a nice timer here. So I'm going to put in my 12-ounce Yeti mug here, and again, I'm going to use my locating area to be right here between the E and the T, but just on the inside of the E as per the specification. Okay, and what I've measured and what Yeti has sort of given us as the middle point here. So all I really need to do now is to take that, and you notice my cone is this way, so I'm going to go into the opening here. So all I'm going to do now is take this in. Remember that this cone here is locked. Okay, so it won't turn, and we don't want to turn it with the buttons on the machine. All I want to do is bring this close, and then I'm going to turn this so that the E, the red dot pointer, is just on the E here where I've got it located. Okay, I want it right about there as my centering position. I'm going to lock in my mug, and then I'm going to be able to start the job. Now, I normally like to keep it off to the side here because then it makes it easier when you want to go, when you do one mug and then you want to go and do the next mug. Because all I really need to do now, if I'm doing the next mug, is to take the mug, put it in, turn this to the starting point, lock in, and then if I was doing the same image, I just press the repeat button on the machine, and then off I would go. So ultimately now, I've got a perfect position, and I'm ready to go. And if I take off you notice that my red dot pointer is right on the E and the T here. So just on the E, it's not in between the E and the T, but just on the E inside it a little bit. Again, visual for me is normally for this type of scenario is good enough. I mean, if we had to be in a perfect position, then we might make a mark, as our spot or location. But, for the most part, this is the easiest way to do it. So now I just need to focus the Yeti mug with the laser. You can see I've got the focus tool on there. I'm going to bring the Yeti mug up until it gets close to the... I normally just bring it up as long as I'm close. It's touching now. You'll notice on my screen that the Z value is actually minus 5.9. So again, I'd probably record that in the job, and then next time I go to do this, I won't use the focus tool. I'll just drive up to the Z equals minus 5.9, which is what I did with the Pilsner glass. Just for refresher, if I move this down, and I'm going to do a focus without the focus tool, I want that screen to say minus 5.9. And there we are, ready to go. So now that I've got a template set up here for the one logo, I could actually set a two logo template up, but probably it's just as easy working with two logos just to take this logo and then go Control C and then Control V, and then we can just take this down. And as we did on the Pilsner glass, it's very easy to set this up. And you can see that the X is 720.750, and I'm at the middle, which is 4.712. And if I took the 3-inch diameter of the mug and I used my same formula that I use in the Pilsner, that would be the end point of the page itself, and this would be positive down here, and up here would be negative 4.712. So I really don't need to set a second handle on here. When it engraves, the Yeti mugs are manufactured so that the silver Yeti and the black Yeti are 180 degrees away from each other. So setting this up is pretty easy. It's really going to be just as easy as doing the glass Pilsner glass that I had. I know I'm lining it. It's a little bit harder in your mind because you're thinking, well, how am I going to line this logo up with the word Yeti? But as long as you have that red dot pointer between the E and the T, which is the halfway point of the actual logo, then it's very easy and very straightforward to get the logos in the right position. So all I need to do now is take this job, and then I can send it right to the laser machine. When we're using the Yeti mug here where we've got a handle on it like so, the issue we have with that is twofold. One is that if I put the mug in this way, when it comes around, it's going to catch this bracket right here, and it's gonna get stuck. So the first thing I need to do is I need to switch the cones. So I'm going to switch them from what they were before, and it's quite easy to do. Normally I hand tighten them when I first get the rotary attachment, and it's easy to change. All we're going to do is put a 13 millimeter wrench here, which should come with the machine. I'm going to loosen this off, and I'm going to take the one off the drive wheel here, and I'm going to switch these around. Tighten them up. Not too tight. Again, the drive wheel is stationary, so I don't have to put a wrench on that. Put that in there like so. And now we're ready to engage the actual rotary attachment and the mug itself. So I'm going to put this in. Notice that now it's going to be going this way. And pop this in here like so, like this. And then I'm going to just engage the, and let's focus this for the 2-inch, because this sort of shows us the other problem that we have. So let's put this down. And this is a 2-inch lens I have in here, and this is the most common lens that we have. I'm going to bring this up. And they are focus. Now, if I press my buttons here on my panel, and I spin this around, you'll notice what happens. Our handle comes up and it hits the actual lens assembly itself. And that's a problem because it doesn't allow us to spin all the way around. So typically what I want to do on this type of a mug is I could leave the 2-inch lens on there, and then I can sort of adjust it like I did so that I can do both sides. But typically I like to do it this way, where I'm going to use the handle as my starting point. And to do that, I need to be able to traverse all the way around. And it's easy to do. Just going to take out the 2-inch lens. I'm going to put a 2.5-inch lens in here. And that makes it quite easy. Notice with a 2.5-inch lens, it's silver. And it gives me more clearance. And I still have good detail. I think that's the most important thing to remember, is that even though I'm going to the 2.5-inch lens, I'm not really losing that much detail on the actual piece itself. You notice that my focus tool has a silver nut on it, so again I can line that up, and then all I need to do now is let's just drop the table, focus tool on here, and then I can bring this up. Go. And notice what happens now when I go past this. I actually clear the handle because I get an extra 1/2 inch, and that's the most important thing. So now I can actually go right across, and then when I set up, I can actually now set up like I normally would if I was doing my mugs without the handles, because now the handle doesn't have any, the handle's not going to crash in the laser head, and that allows me now to come down, and I can now set up in my normal location that I would have set up before in the previous part of this video where I was using the mug that didn't have the handle. Because now I can just put the red dot pointer on the E, on the embossed E, and I can work from that. When we talk about handled mugs, no discussion would be complete unless we at least touched on what the difference is between inboard and outboard. And again, it's not that important because you normally are asking the customer where they want the logo and on the mug, whether you want to be looking at it or whether you want it to be on the outside. But I think it's always nice to be able to talk in the appropriate jargon so that you sound like at least you're somewhat of a professional. So the first thing we need to consider is that most people in the world are right-handed. So we normally would grip a handled mug with our right hand. And you can see the first image here on the screen. That's what we would call an inboard designed logo. And what that really means is that when I'm holding the mug in my right hand, I can see the logo. So that means it's inboard, basically means that you can see it all the time. In the second image you can see here, this image is an outboard design. And what that basically means is that when I'm holding it with my right hand, the image faces to the outside. And it really sort of depends on why you're putting the logo on there. If it's sort of a maybe it's something to do with the individual that's holding the mug, then maybe you want the inboard, so they're always looking at the logo, or maybe they won an award or something like that, and that's some sort of a recognition. You may want the outboard if you were sort of looking at a way of maybe advertising your logo or what you're trying to portray to somebody other than the person holding onto the mug. And again, this would be important if the person that is holding the mug, they're maybe buying a service from you, and somebody is talking to them and they're seeing the logo on the mug, and they may ask, what's that? Why is there that logo on the mug or whatever? Or again, maybe it's people want to have the fact that they're being recognized, they want the recognition on the outside of the mug. There's lots of different reasons, but it's important that I think if I just sort of quickly go over why we use the terminology
inboard and outboard. Maybe when you're doing your template job, you may actually save an inboard design or an outboard design, just so it makes it a bit easier for you or the operator to understand, where the logo is going to go. And again, that could be some more information that's laid, in your job when you're doing it up. So you can see that I've got a job set up here for the 4-ounce Yeti mug that I'm going to laser. I'm only going to do one side first, and then we'll do a job with 2 sides. So again, you can see that I brought in a picture of the rotary so that it mimics what we talked about earlier in terms of the way the cones are situated. I've got a picture of the actual Yeti mug itself. And you'll notice that I've done a focus here, and I'm at Z equals -6.86. So if I wanted to, I could take that number and then I could keep a record of it right here so that the operator would know, or you would know later on, that if you wanted not to use the focus tool and you wanted just to drive the Z up, then this is the number that you're going to be putting in to have that come up. I've got my red dot pointer located right here, which is right now at the E on the word Yeti on the mug itself. The only thing I need to do here is I need to turn this logo 180 degrees, and I'm doing that by putting a positive 90 in, and I've got to move this up. I'm going to work on my middle position here, and all we need to do now is I'm just going to move that head into the middle of my job. And let's just move that out of the way. So that's the middle of my job right there. All I need to do now is press the F8 key, and I've got myself a marker. I'm going to move the head out of the way. I'll move it back to the E because I want to go, remember, I want to go back to the starting position here. So I want to make sure that's set up. So again, the red dot pointer is over top of the E. So what I want to do is I want to so you can see that my red dot pointer is over the E. So all I need to do now is I take this logo and I snap it to that number there. Let's zoom in on that. Easier to move. So you can see that my setting is 22.988. Again, as we've talked about before, I can make that something that's a little bit more conducive in terms of a good number. But again, that happens to be in the middle of my visual location. So I'm going to keep that. But again, that's our marker there. I'll push it back in. There's my snap. And we're 22.98. The Y is 0 because I'm sitting on top of the red line. So as we talked about before, that red line is a red dot pointer, which you can see here matches up perfectly. So now all I really need to do is just send the job over. You can see that I've got Yeti Mug set in terms of the power and speed. I've already saved all the information here. I could come back here now and just save it. And that information is there. And let's run the job. Push that to the queue. We're going to come over here and take a look here. Get rid of the old job. And there's my individual job right there. I have it complete a job from queue because I'm not going to repeat the job. If I was repeating the job, I would undo that so that the job would always stay here and I could hit the repeat button on the machine, on the laser machine itself. I'm just going to do one, so I'm going to have it removed from the actual queue itself. And then all we really need to do now is start the job up. And my job is working. Pretty straightforward. So you'll get a good indication here on the time in terms of how long it's going to take to run the job.
Now that I've done the one logo, let's do the two logos. So all I need to do is now take this logo and drop it to the bottom here. So the first thing I want to do is I want to press the F8 key. That gives me a second. It's going to give me a second marker, which now I can take that marker and drag it down. To the bottom of the page. So now I want that marker to go to 22.988. So all we need to do is go Control CV, make sure that we're working with the middle anchor, which we are. Bring this logo down and then just snap. And you see it's 22.988. So now all I have to do now is save the job. And then we can actually run the job. Q. You can see that I got both logos ready to go. I'm going to remove them when they're done. Power and speed look good. And should be able to get a good half decent job going here.
Before I finish off this video, there's one other thing that I'd like to talk to you about and show you. And you may have noticed that in one of the videos or one of the pictures there that I actually have masking on the actual mug itself. Now, the reason for this is that I'll use masking in certain situations where I need to test the job before I actually run it. And what I mean by that is I put the masking on the item and then I run it at a low power so that it laser engraves into the mask but not into the actual, in this case, the powder coating on the bottom side. And this allows me sort of just to do a quick visual. You can even run it at a low res just to do it really fast. And this I find, a lot of times I'll get people to come in, to look at the machines, and they may only have a limited number of product, maybe one product, maybe two, and I'm trying to hit it in exactly the right spot, and I don't have a lot of chances. So it's always nice to have the masking, so I can place it on the in this case on the mug. I can do a light engraving even at a little bit of a lower resolution, so it's fast, and then I'll be able to do a double check before I actually run the job. I know some people might think, well, you can use the camera. Well, you can't use the camera, the overhead camera, because it only works on flat items. It doesn't work on round items. So realistically, the only way that you could test it is to actually laser engrave one of the logos that you're doing and have it laser engraved right on the back of the masking. And it's a great way to test things, and I've used it for a number of times in over the years that I've been running laser machines, and for me it works really well. Well, that concludes our video on looking at how to use Ruby with a rotary attachment to engrave Yeti mugs with both handles and not handles. I left a couple of things out in this video that I included in the Pilsner glass video. One was how to return to the start position. It's pretty easy to set up, but if you're sort of not clear on it, you can go back to that video and watch that example. The second was how to create a custom material setting. I did do that for the glass setting for the Pilsner mug, and it can be easily done to create a material setting for the Yeti mug if you want to create that one yourself too. Hopefully you've learned something today. I think what you'll find is that, and hopefully what you've seen, is that Ruby is a very sophisticated program that makes it very easy for you to get perfect placement of your logos on mugs or glass or anything like that. The Yeti mug, if you follow the steps I've shown here, how to put the red dot pointer in that starting position on the E in the word Yeti, then I think it's really going to be easy for you to get perfect placement every time. And perfect placement means no mistakes, which then saves you money because these things aren't cheap. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed it, and come on back. I'll be doing some more videos in the near future.